Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Discovering Commercial Real Estate podcast. With us today is Michael Romer, partner and Rober and Debbas law firm. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Of course. So before we jump into the business, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into law.
Great question and a great way to start off the conversation. I went to law school after graduating college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I needed to continue going to school, try and figure my next steps out, and law school seemed like the logical thing to do. So I go to law school and I start taking internships and getting experience. And I'm thinking, first, I want to be Jerry Maguire. I wanted to be a sports and entertainment lawyer. And then I realized there are absolutely no jobs in sports and entertainment law. And then my dad was a New York City detective. So I thought, okay, maybe criminal law is my path. And I did one summer in the DA's office and I realized this is not for me. And then ultimately I found my home in real estate. I consider myself to be more of a deal maker than a fighter, only fight when I need to. And I used to have this expression that litigators should be locked up in a cage and only let out when needed. And now as I've grown the law firm, I realize what a role they play in the transaction. Just me personally, I'm more of a transactional lawyer. And it really started out as a vision of wanting to do more. And it morphed into wanting to follow my father's footsteps, going into law enforcement. And then ultimately I found my way into real estate.
And then when you opened your firm, what kind of gap did you want to fill in the market?
It's interesting. I started my firm with my co-managing partner, Pierre Debbas. We started the firm together. We were just two friends who started a firm back in 2011. We came out of a Midtown firm, had been working for a bit, and we realized let's do something. Yeah, let's do our own thing. We got tired of working for other people and thought we could chart our own path. And I'll tell you something. Our vision from the beginning back in 2011 was to start a full service real estate firm. We felt that was missing because a lot of firms would only do commercial or would only do residential, wouldn't do both. We really wanted to have a full service real estate law firm that does residential, commercial, corporate, anything and everything that has to do with real estate. That's what we wanted to do. And that was the vision of the firm from day one. And here we are now 15 years later, and we've pulled it off. And that's a testament to the real estate community and the support we've received all throughout the city and beyond. And it's really flattering at this point. It's hard to believe we were two kids who had a vision. We didn't expect the firm to be more than 4 or 5 lawyers. Now we're pushing 30 lawyers.
Well,
And it's been a fun ride.
do you feel like you have any early experiences, like maybe law school or something before that kind of transition to, practices that you take with you today?
Yeah, law school for me, I'll be honest, I hated it. I really did not like law school. First year of law school was a massive adjustment. Coming out of college was relatively straightforward for me. And then I hit first year of law school and things got real fast. And all of a sudden the grades aren't what you want them to be. You realize how competitive it is. We had situations where people in law school were ripping out pages of books so that you couldn't get the answer to the question.
Oh, wow.
And this was the type of competitive nature that I hated. Look, it's part of the legal community, but it's a small part of it. And to me, what I learned in law school was just it was policies, procedures, laws, just the basics. But in my opinion, law school didn't really give you the practical experience that you needed. And that's why I encourage anyone going to law school to make sure they do internships, externships, get experience from people practicing in the field in a wide array of areas until you could figure out what you like to do.
Do you feel like it took you a while to like decide real estate, or did you
It
try
did.
it?
I dabbled. As I mentioned before, I had experience in criminal law, had some experience in corporate law and litigation. My first job was a landlord-tenant litigator. I absolutely hated it. I was the least liked person in the room. All of a sudden, you come in and you're wearing your suit and you go into housing court, and sadly, you're trying to do your job and evict some person from their home or somebody from their business. And you realize, oh, wow, there's a heavy burden that comes with it. And it's one they don't teach you in law school. And it's an important role, but especially in New York City, which is one of the most tenant friendly jurisdictions in the country, you realize that tenant rights are extremely important. And this is a highly regulated city. And I'll tell you a quick story. So I go into court for my first trial, and I thought I was going to go in law and order style, like Tom Cruise, I want the truth. And all of a sudden I go in there, had my briefcase, my evidence, the evidence that the tenant hadn't paid rent, evidence that the tenant was keeping the apartment in disarray. And they hadn't paid rent, I think, in 6 months. And I had pictures. Sadly, the woman who lived there was a hoarder. And I went in there pleading my case. And judge says to me, "Counselor, can I see you in my chambers?" And I said, "What did I do? Did I offend him? Did I do something wrong?" Pulls me into his chambers. He says, "Take a seat." He said, "You're going to give this tenant another 6 months." And I said, "Your Honor, you don't understand. I already gave them 6 months. My client's suffering." And the judge said, "You're going to give them another 6 months. If rent isn't paid in 6 months, I'll give you a judgment. You can come back and we'll evict them. And by the way, welcome to New York City real estate." And that
Wow.
was a lesson that I've never forgotten.
Do you feel like, we talked a lot about law school. Do you feel like if you don't go, like a lot of younger people think that if you don't go to a top 3 law school, like you can't be successful in this field? What's your opinion on that?
The answer to that is no. The the key, in my opinion, to succeeding and to growing in the legal career is just to tune out the noise and keep working. Nothing's ever going to be handed to you. I was not one of those kids that the big law firms were recruiting out of law school. And I wasn't handed those, 6-figure jobs day one with no experience. And I really had to hustle and work for everything um, that I made and all the experience that I obtained. And it took a lot of work. And and my advice to anybody in law school is don't get caught up in the school. It's all about you being a hard worker, being authentic, and proving yourself to be invaluable. And the biggest key going into the legal profession, and look, here I am now at 50 years old, right? So I've got 45 people in the office. Every semester we bring in about 7, 8, 9 interns. So the kids come in. Now I can call them kids because I'm 50. So the kids come in every semester and it brings such a breath of life into the office and we love it. But the advice I give to all of them is realize now today you don't know anything and just follow the lead of people who actually do, whatever the practice area is. And it doesn't matter if it's a lawyer. Best advice I ever got was from my father. My father said to me, "Michael, your first job, you go in there and you listen to the secretaries, the receptionist, whoever it is, you follow their lead and learn from them." And I said, "Dad, what am I going to learn from the paralegals and secretaries?" He was spot on because I learned more from secretaries and paralegals in the early years of practice that I did from the attorneys. And that's a piece of advice that I would give to anybody is just humble yourself and go in there and be a sponge and learn as much as you can.
Why do you think that's the case, that you learn more from them than from attorney?
Because oftentimes they are the ones that are involved in the nuts and bolts of the deals, right? Attorneys are negotiating contracts, they're working on deals, they're making deals happen, but there's a lot of mechanics that have to take place, whether it's a lease or a building acquisition, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. And the key to learning all those pieces is to learn from the people who are actually doing the work. And that goes from the paralegals all the way up to associates and partners and just listening and not coming in thinking that you know everything because you're a lawyer, because day one as a lawyer doesn't mean anything. It's great. Congratulations. You graduated law school, but now's the time to actually start learning because my opinion is law school's great. I loved my experience at St. John's and I'm very proud of that. I'm a New York guy, grew up in Staten Island, and St. John's Law has done wonders for me. We recruit students from the school now. We're part of their externship program, but the real experience for me came by the work.
Well, and you mentioned that you recruit students from St. John's and your team is almost at 30 people now. So when you look for a new hire, what qualities are you looking for?
So it's funny. In the beginning, when we started this program with St. John's and Brooklyn Law and various other law schools, it was a question of, okay, well, we're bringing in young help and they'll come in and they'll get credits for the experience, but there's no expense to the firm. So it's effectively free help, which is great, right? So initially you go into this is great business decision, free help. But ultimately what it really morphed into and something that I'm really proud of is you're building your own farm system, right? So I think of myself almost as a GM in some capacity, right? So you're trying to hire associates and paralegals and grow and build the team. But the first place I look, people that actually went through our externship program, because that's the best interview that they'll ever be. You know, if I interview a candidate, have 2 30-minute interviews with them, they seem great. But if somebody was with us for 4 months learning, that's the one I want to hire.
They already kinda know your processes and you kinda see their work ethic as well.
They know, by the way, it's not even about them as much as it is about us too. So they're comfortable with us. They understand our expectations and they're on board. So those that jump in with both feet, generally those are the ones that come back and those are the ones that stay with us. There's one associate on our team now. Her name is Nicole, and she's a rock star and she's been with us for years. Came right out of our externship program, and she's got a great career ahead of her.
What do you think makes a good attorney? What qualities do you think, an attorney should have?
You know, as an attorney, especially a real estate attorney, you need to be flexible. So you need to understand what it is you're working on, whatever the type of deal is. And Lord knows we've handled all types of deals. But you need to be flexible. You need to know how to work with other people and to make deals happen. You know, I like to say we're part-time lawyers and part-time therapists. You know, we're always trying to keep our clients calm, keep the banks calm, keep everybody in the transaction calm, because our goal is to, whatever the deal is, our goal is to get the deal closed and to do it in a way that our client is protected and that our client is educated throughout the process. And one thing that I believe we distinguished ourselves from our competition is by being extremely thorough and putting our work product in writing. A lot of lawyers will do their homework on a building or an apartment, whatever the case may be, and they don't put their due diligence product in writing because that's a liability, right? What if I make a mistake? What if I give you this document and something's wrong? We effectively put our money where our mouth is and tell our clients, we analyze this building. This is the situation. These are the risks. We're happy to discuss with you. Here's a piece of paper or document. Take a look at it and we'll schedule a call. And that's something that I think is really, really important and something that we've used to distinguish ourselves. You know, I think a lot of people in the industry uh, see us as a residential real estate law firm. And there's a good reason for that. We do have the city's largest residential real estate practice, and I'm extremely proud of that. But we also have a very a large and thriving commercial practice. You know, office leasing, retail leasing, office building acquisitions, purchasing industrial properties, not only in New York City but tri-state and throughout the country. Recently we launched about 5 6 years ago, maybe even longer now. We really built up our national multifamily practice, multifamily lending all throughout the country. And it's pretty exciting. But the sad thing for a New York City real estate attorney is most of the deals that we're seeing, and you could probably attest to this, have been outside of New York City. You know, most of the multifamily action that we've seen down in the Southeast and the Southwest, and we're really waiting for the day where New York City multifamily picks up again.
So you mentioned New York City multifamily. What are your guys' specific role? Are you guys like representing the lender, borrowers? What's
Everything. So we're counseled to about 30 banks, 30 commercial lending institutions. And then we also represent owners, operators, developers, folks buying buildings, buying multifamily properties, or selling, whatever the case may be. So we really see it from all sides. So we could be hired by the bank on a loan. We could be hired by the borrower, the owner who's taking out a loan, or we could actually be hired by the principals themselves who want to purchase or sell a building or develop it.
so you guys will always help the client like review term sheets, review loan documents, loan commitments, anything of that sort?
Full service, and that's really important, especially as a real estate lawyer. Y- Oftentimes, clients will come in and they'll see the deal, the numbers look great, make it happen. And it's really our job to guide them through that process because we don't want anybody to rush into a transaction without understanding the risks and, most importantly, understanding the financial ramifications. What's this going to cost? And not only what's it going to cost to close, what's it going to cost me after the fact? So we always want to make sure clients understand the numbers when it comes to buying the piece of property and carrying it into the future. The one thing we can't predict, interest rates. And we also can't predict, in New York, especially, look, as I mentioned, we're a highly regulated state, highly regulated city. There's a lot of laws and regulations that we're faced with and we have to just work with. And it's challenging. It does present challenges, especially to owners and landlords and banks, because one thing that our bank clients are worried about is you talk about things like rent freezes, things like that you're hearing about in the news. These are things that devalue properties. And if you're looking at situations where properties get devalued, sure, that might be a good thing to a potential buyer, potentially. But what about the bank that actually has the loan on that property? If you get to a point where the properties are devalued and now all of a sudden the loan isn't really worth what everybody thought it was, we don't want to have a situation where banks are saying, no, that owners are saying, here, take the keys back. So we have to be really careful. To me, the key to New York City real estate success is maintaining property values. And I'm all for affordable housing and creating new opportunities. But one thing that frustrates me the most is the disconnect between politicians and the real estate community. Because too often politicians feel we have the answer. We're going to pass this act, that act, and that's going to solve the world's problems. Most recent example of that is the Fair Act, right? The Fair Act was passed effectively saying, in layman's terms, that tenants shouldn't have to pay the broker's commission, for the landlord. So that gets passed. Everybody's very excited about that. But those of us in the real estate business were saying, hold on a second. What do you think the landlords are going to do? And what did they do? Within 24 hours, they were increasing the rent by the amount of the commission to offset the expense. And that's the frustrating point. And that's where I really want to see more interaction between the real estate community and the politicians who write the laws, because we can get to a place where there's more housing, more affordable housing, but it has to be done together. Politicians, whether it's a mayor, whether it's a governor, state legislature, when these laws get passed without really the sign off, not that the real estate community needs to bless these laws, but there should be a discussion where everybody understands the practical side of it. Something might sound good, but in practice, it makes no sense.
Yeah. And you work with a lot of, different types of clients, right? Residential or commercial. How important is educating first time, people taking loans for the first time, people buying house for the first time, being their, guide through this difficult and new process for them?
It's really important if you're looking at somebody who's a first time buyer, whether they're buying a building or buying an apartment. They're a first time buyer. They've never done this before. So you really have to slow the process down and walk them through it and make sure they understand everything. Because the one thing that you never want as a lawyer or you never want as a broker is for a client to come back and say, you didn't tell me about this.
Yeah.
And that's really important. You have to slow it down and make sure clients understand all of the risks, because first time home buyers and first time building buyers, first time renters, they're nervous and they don't understand the game. And that's really why they're hiring us as lawyers and hiring you all as brokers, to make sure that they're being protected, because they're coming in admitting, hey, I don't know anything. I'm hiring you as my broker, you as my lawyer, protect me. And that's our job.
For sure. And, kind of taking a step back, what's the day in your life like?
Oh,
You know,
wow. My life has changed a lot over the course of the law firm's lifespan. When we first started the firm back in 2011, it was two owners, maybe one associate, one paralegal, and we were just running all over the place. So we were our own marketers, doing all the work, handling all of our HR and payroll, doing all of this. And the best lesson that I learned was that I had to let go. So as a managing partner of a law firm, you need to realize there's a time where you have to turn over certain things to other people. So now fast forward, here we are, we have office managers, bookkeepers, a team of people, assistants, great lawyers, associates. So never to be afraid of letting somebody else carry the load for you. Because the one thing lawyers hate to do is they hate to hand off their relationships to somebody else. And we've looked at it from early on. We said, we're not going to operate that way. We're confident in our relationships. The real estate community that wants to work with us will continue to, and we need to build our team. We're never going to grow if we just keep it to the three of us. And now 15 years later, I think we have 45 people. So there's been a lot of growth in that. Now, here we are today. What is my day like? Obviously, I do a lot of marketing, a lot of networking, a lot of client meetings. You know, just today alone, it was a breakfast meeting, a lunch meeting, and then mixed in, there were meetings in the office, interviews, phone calls with clients. And I feel it's my job now at this point, as a managing partner of a law firm, to help all of the partners in my law firm grow their business because it benefits the firm in the long run. So it went from the beginning of Michael and Pierre really needing to grow to establish their brand. But once the brand was established, we need to help everybody around us grow their business.
How important is it for young attorneys to, go out there, go to client meetings, go to networking events, trying to get their brand out like the way you did?
Very, very important. But do it slowly. There's a lot of networking that can happen. There's cocktail events, there's expos. Just put yourself out there. Join networking groups. You know, I joined, believe it or not, 20 years ago. I belonged to a BNI group, and I got up early, came to the city,
Yeah.
and I was going to these meetings at 7 a.m. But you know what? It was great experience because you're coming in and you're effectively pitching yourself to a room full of people that do different things. And to me, that was actually a great experience. And I do a ton of public speaking now, but early on, I was really nervous. So I'll never forget the first expo I did, and the New York City Real Estate Expo. It's a great event. It's coming up in October. A friend of mine runs it. We're always involved with it, and I'll never forget. It was God, 15, 20 years ago. I'm in front of a room of 200 people, and I'm holding my piece of paper, and I'm noticing my paper is shaking a little bit. And at that moment, I realized, you know what? Just put the paper down and just be yourself. But that came from experience. No matter who it is, and people will sit here and lie to you. Oh, I was great from day one. No, 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 you weren't. It comes from experience. It takes time. We're all nervous the first time we do things. And then eventually, once you put yourself out there, you learn what you're good at, and what you're not, you surround yourself with people that can do that.
Yeah, like we mentioned, social media is such a big thing. How do you feel like it is from 10 years ago or when you first started your company in 2011 to now?
So right now we're at a point in the law firm where we're really beefing up our online marketing, our social media game. My own son, Shane, is now managing our social media platform, and he's changed our game completely. TikTok, are you kidding? The firm needs a TikTok account, but yes, we learned that we do. YouTube Shorts. I had no idea what these things were, but the beauty of social media is I'm a big LinkedIn supporter. I've been using LinkedIn for a long time. It's a great way to network and get your message out. But the attention span, I feel, has gotten smaller and smaller. And videos are a great way to get your message out. And could be a short video, a little clip. So reels on Instagram or short videos on either TikTok or YouTube, they go a long way. And it could be done in a way where it's professional. And I've seen some that are terrible, right? You see some of these online and it's a lawyer and you realize I can't hire this guy. And I never want to be that guy. And I'm always worried about that. You want to make sure that, you have an image, right? You have a brand, and we really want to be professional, but we want to be real people. And I think that's something that we distinguish ourselves from other law firms because we're not a stuffy place. We're a place that you can come in and talk to us socially. We can close a door and crack a few jokes and be normal people and then close the biggest deal you've worked on that year.
Yeah, like that's the goal, balance. And also, as an attorney that does a lot of transactions, there's an attorney on the other side. So how important is like those relationships and making sure it's professional and not, bad, I guess.
You have to, I'm not going to say you have to be friends with everybody, but you have to be friendly with everybody. And there's a respect in the profession out there that it's important. We have to, it doesn't matter if you don't like the lawyer on the other side, or you think they're a terrible person, you think they're a jerk. That's fine. But keep that to yourself. It's maintaining good relations because that's the key to getting deals done. There are lawyers that you could put a commercial contract on my desk and I'll negotiate it with the lawyer on the other side because I know them and we've worked on many deals before. We basically know each other's comments
Yeah.
and how each other thinks. Deals get done a lot quicker. And that's important. And also, there are situations where you might need help, right? You're in a bind and you need, you need an assist, something happened, and you need the other side to give you some more time. And if you build the right relationships, you can get that few week adjournment on a closing by just working out a friendly relationship. Maintaining good connections with other lawyers, other brokers, it's really, really important. And that's where, believe it or not, I mean, there are lawyers that I'll get together, for breakfast and just catch up. It's important to do that. And I same advice I'd give to brokers too. Everything doesn't need to be so competitive.
Yeah, you guys can mutually exist and
There's enough
there's
business for everybody.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, when you look at leases, like commercial leases, what do you look at and things of that nature?
Well, when we're talking about commercial leases here in New York City, there's a lot of different types, right? We've got office leases, we have retail leases, we have multifamily leases, rent stabilized or market leases, and the every one of them is different. The goal, especially if you're representing tenants, the goal is to make sure that your client is able to do what they want to do. So basically, if they have a use in mind, we need to make sure that okay, that use is allowed. We can do that in that area, we can do that in that zone, we could do that in that building, or if they want to make renovations to a building, this is possible. Is it a landmark building? Are there other issues that we have to look at? And when looking at rent stabilization, have we gone to DHCR and have we looked to see if there's any complaints or issues or filings? And these are all issues that are worked on behind the scenes, but it's extremely important. And that's really where I feel attorneys earn their keep. It's not negotiating the lease, it's the behind the scenes work that we're doing to make sure that our clients are educated, protected, and know what they're getting themselves into.
For sure. And then, another part of a transaction is the term TOE, time of essence. It's kind of been thrown around a lot. So, can you tell us more about like what that means and
Oh
how
my
that
goodness.
can be
The
played in effect?
infamous TOE. In some ways, I feel TOEs are a waste of time because you could say, okay, I'm forcing this closing. Time is of the essence, which effectively means you need to close on this date or else, right? Or else we're going to sue you. We're going to try and keep the down payment or the deposit, whatever the case may be. And then the lawyer that receives the TOE notice says, well, I reject your TOE notice. And then I've seen situations, okay, well, you rejected my TOE notice. I'm going to reject your rejection of my TOE notice. And all of a sudden now, lawyers are just writing letters back and forth. When back to your relationship question, if I knew the lawyer, I could say, listen, Joe, this is silly. Let's not waste our client's time and money. Let's just agree to close 3 weeks later and skip all this. But
So,
some clients want you to fight.
and let's say in the situation where a TOE goes wrong and they can't close on that day, sometimes they could take the deposit, the hard deposit.
Well, it's not always that simple. There'll be situations in some cases where there's a court reporter present. So you schedule a TOE closing. You bring in the court reporter to basically take minutes, who's there. It can be useful at times, but generally, if the deal is going to close, a few weeks doesn't make all that much of a difference. And then it boils down to money, right? So let's say there's a delay and the rate is expiring and interest rates are going up, but the person had a rate that was locked at a lower rate. It's going to cost them money. Well, okay, maybe let's have that conversation. My client's not ready. We understand that this is going to cost you money. Let's work out a monetary arrangement so that your client will be made whole. And this is the practical side of being a lawyer. It's just knowing when to fight and knowing when to make a deal.
The fine boundary between both.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that New York City is such a competitive market, such a fast-paced market, and the relationships that are important with other attorneys. But in such a transactional business, how do you maintain relationships with clients that are not active at the moment?
It's hard. And my partner has this expression that you need to be a blinking light to your clients, referral base, whatever the case may be. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. So what we do is we'll send out things like monthly newsletters, letting people know what's going on at the firm, deals that we've closed, if we've been quoted in the newspaper or wrote an article or we're on a TV appearance. And we just put that out there. And that has paid so much dividends because you can't stay in touch with everybody. Our email database is probably, God knows, 60,000 emails at this point, maybe more. But you can't stay in touch with everybody. But a simple step of just sending out a newsletter or social media, just staying visible, because out of sight, out of mind,
Yeah, you took the
right?
words out
You
of
could
my
close one deal, it's the best deal, everybody's happy, and it was a great transaction. 2 years go by, and you see your old client just did a deal with somebody else. Well, what probably happened is they either went to a different broker who likes to use a different lawyer, and they just, I don't take any offense by it, but it's on me for not staying in touch with that client. And newsletters are a great way of doing it. Just staying visible. I do believe in that blinking light idea.
In the early days compared to now, did it sting more to, like, lose a client or what you just mentioned, like, see a client close with another attorney compared to
Oh,
now?
in the beginning, every deal mattered. I would hate it if you would close a deal and next thing you know, you see your client working with somebody else. Oh, it used to burn me. Or we've had situations as we've grown where you're hiring associates. Let's say they're working on a commercial deal. You introduce that associate to this commercial broker. And then all of a sudden you go on LinkedIn and you see them promoting a deal that they worked on together without you.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered by that anymore. It's just part of the business. Like I said, there's enough to go around. It doesn't burn me the way it did in the beginning. Because in the beginning, as we were firm building, we wanted everything. I mean, we were killers. We wanted every deal, every broker, and we still have that mentality. But we've reached the point where, okay, you got this deal. You get that win, right? Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't take offense.
For young attorneys, what do you think their mindset set should be when they're kinda in that situation and it stings?
Young attorneys have to be careful because when you come in as a young attorney, and it doesn't matter what deal you're working on, you're coming in a support role usually, right? You're supporting a partner who's running point on the deal, and you have to be very careful. You never want to be someone who poaches somebody else's relationships. I feel let the relationships flow to you naturally, right? There's a reason. Let's say you switch law firms. Lawyers are not supposed to announce to clients, "Hey, I'm here now. Come work with me." They're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to happen on its own. The client sees that you moved and the client follows you. Young attorneys, the best advice I have is just to be patient and understand that growing a business takes time. And the first 5, 10 years of your practice needs to be on honing your craft. And you could build your practice along the way, but what good is having a big practice if you haven't honed your craft?
So, meaning to have the knowledge to know what you're doing and to
Yeah,
be able to
learn.
negotiate these deals.
Put in your dues. Put in your dues. Spend the time. Learn from everybody. And no matter what firm you're at, could be big firm, small firm. There's a lot of great lawyers out there, and it's just a matter of having the confidence to go into somebody and say, "Hey, can you tell me why you did that? Why did you make that comment on the lease?" And and it's important to have mentors in this business and to have mentors that you can learn from because to this day, I still surround myself with people that I learn from. Because the day you stop learning is the day you should retire. Because it doesn't matter how many deals you've closed, how many transactions you've worked on, how many clients you have, things keep changing. And you need people to bounce ideas off of, bounce strategies off of. That's why I'm a huge proponent of in office. I'll be honest, people that work remotely, sadly, if you're a junior associate, it's out of sight, out of mind. Right? It's the people that are coming in are the ones that are really trying. They want to learn and they want to grow. And my advice is to come in as much as humanly possible. Now I have to be careful. I used to talk a lot about you have to come into the office and people started quitting. Michael's going to require us to come in 5 days a week. I'm not doing that. We've reached the point where we're flexible and we have remote days and that sort of thing. But young lawyers and young paralegals, young assistants really need to come in and learn.
They
And you
have to
can't do
be
that
in
remotely. Yeah,
they have to be in the environment.
agreed.
And for young attorneys, how important is the right law firm? Like, some people take the first job offered to them
Hmm.
and they realize it's not a fit. So how important is meshing with the team that you choose to go on?
I think it's important. I think more so than money. No, you come out of law school, you might have law school loans. Lord knows I did. You want to come out and make money. Now, I didn't come out making real money right away. It took time, but I wanted to learn. So for me, I put more emphasis on going somewhere where I could learn. And I did the reverse of what a lot of people do. Is I actually started working in the suburbs first and then worked my way into the city. So maybe I've been practicing 25 years. The first 5 were in the suburbs, working for relatively smaller firms. But the experience that I got working in that smaller firm, hands on, that you won't get in bigger firms because it just doesn't work that way. When you're in a smaller firm, you're involved in everything, every aspect of the deal. And I feel like that gave me a leg up, that when I came into the city, I really understood every aspect of the deal. Where if you go to a huge firm and you're coming in as a young lawyer, they'll put you on a part of a deal. Or we're just going to put you on this part, not this part. You'll do due diligence, but you won't work on the contract, or you won't work on lease review. And it's really important to get experience. So yeah, I put more emphasis on the learning part of it. But I had this conversation with an extern who worked for us. Sorry, he was paralegal, and he was in law school at night, and he got an opportunity. I think he was first or second in his class, and he got a job offer, several $100,000 right out of law school. He said, Michael, I'm not sure what I want to do. And I said, what do you mean you don't know what you want to do? You can't pass up that opportunity. And it's being handed to you, and it's a great firm, great program. Go there, get your experience, make money, and then decide. Because not everybody gets that opportunity.
So small firms, you learn every part of the transaction, and big firms are kind of like a machine where you do your part, plug in, and
Yeah, that's by design. I always laughed. I'd be on a big deal, and we handle large transactions, but we're a pretty small firm, right? We're only 28 lawyers, and we could be on a deal that's an $80 million deal, and we have 2 people on the deal, and the big firm is on the other side, and they've got 20 people on the deal, right? So I always laugh at that because all 20 of those people are billing hourly, and on our side, we're only billing out 2 or 3 people hourly. So when you get to the closing table and you see the difference in fees.
oh,
And their fee is quadruple what you're charging, and you're still charging a hefty fee, in some case 6 figures. But when you see this other fee, you're realizing, oh my goodness. But God bless. From our standpoint, we always wanted to provide big firm quality service, but at lower than big firm rates.
and the feel, the
It,
personal touch.
it's a feel, it's a relationship. Look, there are deals that you have to go to a big firm on, right? If it's a $2 billion transaction, you 98% of the time, the developer, the client's going straight to one of the big firms. And that's understandable because the liability is huge. And they want to make sure they're going to a place that, has the 100 lawyers to put on it. But when you're looking at, your average deal, let's say it's multifamily or an office building here in New York City, you don't need the big firm on every deal. There's a time and place, but for us, that's where we come in. And next thing you know, clients are realizing, oh, wow, I could hire you, pay 50% less in legal fees, and I happen to like you. I mean, that's what we aim for.
That's a fair.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what has been the most rewarding part of running a team, residential and commercial, and what has been the most challenging part?
The rewarding part has changed. In the beginning, you achieve some success and you're making money, and that's great. You start looking at this. And then as time goes on, you realize, I had somebody stop me in the elevator recently, and they said, Michael, I have to tell you, the people at your firm are some of the nicest people I've ever dealt with. That's what I'm more proud of these days. It's the culture, the reputation, not collecting, but putting together a group of good people who know what they're doing. That's really rewarding when you get a compliment like that, because it's not about promoting Michael. It's about promoting Romer Debbas, promoting the firm. And when clients and brokers come to you and they see, they compliment you on the people, you feel like, I guess I'm getting old now, but you have that dad moment where you feel proud, like you've built something, and it's something that you take home with a smile.
Is it hard building that type of culture?
Oh yeah, it's hard. We like to say we have a no jerk policy. We used to call it something else, but for liability reasons, we don't call it that anymore. But it's hard. There was one guy who came for an interview and he had a seven-figure book of business, and he came in, obviously bright lawyer, had great experience, but he came in as just somebody that we can't have this guy in the office. Just the ego and the attitude, and it wouldn't fit in our culture.
Yeah.
There's a place for him, but it's hard because we have a mindset, or check your ego at the door. Let's all work together and build something, right? And let us help you. And even partners, I've had partners 15 years, 20 years older than me come in and they let me help them grow their business. And they're happy about it. Like, those are the ones that succeed, because it's not about me. It's not about them. It's about all of us helping each other grow something. But the challenge is, you have attorneys along the way that say, I want to leave. I want to take my business and go somewhere else. You help somebody build their business up. This happened a couple of years ago and the person just left. Thanks. You win some, you lose some. Again, that stuff used to burn me. It doesn't anymore. You wish people well, because there's enough business for all of us.
I was just about to ask you, how does it feel like when you bring in a young attorney, like you teach them the ropes and everything, and another offer comes by and they take it and that's it?
I'll give you an example. During COVID was crazy time. Now, for those of us in the business, the initial year especially, look, we weren't here in the office, and it's where people are trying to figure out how they're getting deals closed. And next thing you know, paralegals and associates are being poached, and crazy numbers are being thrown around. And we lost people because other firms would pay them $50,000 a year more to join them. And then when things normalized, those people lost their jobs, right? But it wouldn't make sense for us to match that salary, because it just didn't make any business sense. So it's a challenge. It's always hard to put time and effort into somebody and lose them. But at the end of the day, we want people to succeed. If somebody that we trained has success, we actually have a little pride in that. If that person ends up building their own firm and establishing their own brand, and maybe they learned a thing or two from us. But what that tells us is we just can't sit on our laurels. We got to keep going and keep evolving, because otherwise the industry will eat you alive.
It's like a NFL coaching tree. Like, for example, like they all came from a Nick Saban, Bill Belichick. They all come from that branch. So you guys are their branch, and attorneys are going different places.
It's funny. We take a lot of pride in that, and attorneys move around, and there are lawyers out there that used to work for us that have started their own firm.
Yeah.
And we wish them well. It's not, like I said, there's enough to go around, and our firm has really grown, and it's grown in terms of reputation, in terms of the size of deals, because the challenge as a young attorney and as a young law firm owner, nobody's hiring you on a big deal. You got 3 attorneys. You've been in business for a year and a half. And now all of a sudden you were doing deals, 100 million, 200 million. And it's a really cool experience, because you realize, okay, the industry is catching up to us. And there's an expression in life that, lawyers make most of their money, in between 50 and 60. And I'm 50 years old now. So the next 10 years, here we go.
Let it come.
Let's hope so.
And when you did do your first like $100 million deal, or even got a phone call to interview for that type of loan, I mean, that type of, legal deal, how did it feel like, and what were the emotions at that time?
It's, from my standpoint, anytime I'm involved in those calls, I have the relevant partners with me who are going to be working on these deals. And we'll be sitting on the pitch call, and it feels good, right? You feel like, oh, we're in the game now. We have this opportunity, because you notice the first 5 years, maybe you're only getting deals up to $20 million, and then it's $50 million, and then it goes up. And it's something that we do take pride in, but it took a lot of work, a lot of time and effort to really build up the firm to get it to a place where we're getting those opportunities. We don't win them all, but we win a decent amount of them. And when you're representing some of the biggest institutional lenders in the country, and they're coming to you on these large deals, it's a compliment, and we take a lot of pride in that.
And then what motivates you today so far, from when your career started?
Things have changed. Now all of a sudden, when I started, my kids were younger. My son who now works for us is 22, right? So I've been practicing for 25 years. My daughter's now her last year in high school. In the beginning, it was all about hustling, providing for them, doing everything I can. And then you get to a point where you're realizing we've built something, right? And it's something that we're proud of. So what motivates me each and every day, I'll see an associate gets quoted in the newspaper or takes the initiative to write an article that gets published. That motivates me these days. But yes, success, rankings, that all matters. I'm not going to lie. It's important to us. We want to be one of the most active law firms in New York City, the greatest city in the world. And the last couple of years, I think we've been ranked either 2 or 3 for the most active uh, transactional real estate law firm. This is up against the big firms too, in terms of overall volume of deals. And that's something that we're really proud of. And those rankings, they matter to us. It's not the end all be all, but it it motivates us, right? We all need motivation. And we all, at least Pierre and I, we want to be number one. We want to be the best, but we want to be the best our way. We wanted to build a firm that we were never beholden to anyone, and we could do things the way we want to do them and build a firm the way we want to with people that we want to surround ourselves with.
Is it hard? There's so many transactions going on to not have, a finger or a pulse on all of them, because there's so many going on at the same time?
It's not only hard, it's impossible. So that's why you have to let go and trust other people. I'm a bit of a spreadsheet nerd. I track every single transaction in the firm is tracked on a spreadsheet. And I built these dashboards where the spreadsheets all spit out into a portal, which tells me how many deals we have, where they came from, what type of deals, who's working on them. So then I always have this scorecard where I can see who's working on how many deals, how busy people are. And that's really important. And when I see that everybody's overwhelmed, well, that tells me we need to hire more people. But as a law firm owner at this point, it's impossible to be hands on. You have to let go, always be there for the people running point on the deals, but we're honest about it. Like we'll tell our clients, we're there. We're always available to you. My partner here is running point, but you can call me anytime and we mean it. And I think that's really important. If I was sitting here with, Lord knows, I think residential alone would probably have close to 500 active residential deals right now.
Well,
Then you mix in banking and commercial and everything else. You're over 1,000
yeah.
transactions, and it's hard to be involved personally in all of them. But I assure each and every client that they're getting the best service.
How important is it to be available for a client, like, when they call you or they need you in a time of stress? Because this is a very stressful process for them.
It's extremely stressful, whether it's a client or a referral source. The the key to success is responsiveness. And it's hard because you'll get hit with a lot of emails. And I feel like these days people don't want to talk. They just want to email. And it makes me crazy because you could have one simple thing that a 3-second phone call will resolve. But now all of a sudden you're in this 12 email chain with 12 people on it. And it's just a waste of time. And we have to pause and realize, let me pick up the phone and call this person and just move on to the next one. I come in every day with a checklist of things that I want to accomplish. And more is accomplished by picking up the phone than by sending the email.
A lot of people nowadays say, a lot of everyone's calling or emailing or things like that. What do you feel about, like, face-to-face meeting and,
Oh,
coffee chats and things like that?
those are the most important, even to this day. I sent a cold email to somebody this morning. No, don't need to do that at this point. But it was a relationship that we were looking to potentially make, and it was somebody that there was a connection. Just reached out to the person. Let's have coffee. Now I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if we're going to hit it off, but it's well worth it. Clients, brokers, other lawyers. That's how we recruit. People don't know it sometimes, but if I invite you to a coffee meeting, sometimes there's an ulterior motive. They might not know it, but it's, to me, if I could have a coffee with somebody and look, if this was younger me 20 years ago, it would be, we used to call it the beer test. Can we take this person out for a beer? Now it's, you're going to meet me for coffee at 8:30. And I've changed a lot on that front. And face-to-face interaction with your referral sources is crucial, with your clients is crucial. It's always hard to do in this busy world. Zoom helps. I hate it, but it helps. You could have a very efficient 10-minute video call. But if I see your face, I feel it's a lot more effective than two voices on the phone.
For sure. I feel like
Right.
that's a lot of our guests mention that face to face is really something important to them.
Because you know whether or not somebody's BSing you.
Yeah.
Right. On the phone, it's a lot harder to tell.
And giving you their full attention.
Yeah.
Are there any mentors or, figures who influenced you and your approach to law?
Yeah, 100%. So we have a lawyer in our office by the name of Peter Ryder. Peter is a mentor. He's family to me, and he's been with us from probably for the last 11 years or so. He's been here at the firm, and just somebody that has been in the business for I'm not gonna give his age, but 50 plus years, and just knows everybody, knows everything, and does it with a sweetness and just a personality that lights up a room. And that's something that I think is really important. And I try to surround myself with people like that who know their stuff, but they're just good-hearted people. The I think the key to our success for this firm is surrounding ourselves with people who have our back and want to see us succeed. And that's really important. And my work ethic comes from my dad. My dad was one. I grew up one of four boys in Staten Island. My dad was a cop in the city, worked two side jobs, and somehow managed to coach baseball. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. My father-in-law is another one. Worked multiple jobs to take care of his family. That's a work ethic, that blue collar work ethic that it doesn't matter how many custom suits I have at this point. That's the mentality I have. And I think that's important. And that's something that every young professional should have in the back of their minds. It's not a 9 to 5 job. If you want to succeed, you got to put in the time.
What you put into it, that's what you'll get out of it.
Oh, yeah. Anybody who comes to me and says, I want to learn something new. I know you have me in this internship in this department, but I'm curious about this. Can I ask you a question? You'd be amazed. Interns will come in. Do you have 20 minutes for me? Sure, come on in. That's important. And sometimes maybe they'll learn something from me. Maybe they'll think I'm full of it. Who knows? But I I've come to learn that teaching and mentoring, because I've had mentors, I want to serve as a mentor to other people.
That's for sure. And looking back at it, you're looking at your young self when you first started this business with your partner. What advice would you give yourself looking back at it?
You know, in the early days when you first started the firm, everything was just a hustle. Everything was a grind. And there was this sense that, oh, I got invited to this party and this party. I'm going to this cocktail party and this party, and you're all over the place. Lunches, I put on the freshman 15 in my first year of owning a law firm. But not to get lost in that, because what I've learned now is I could go to a cocktail event and within 15 minutes talk to everybody I need to talk to, be seen by everybody who needs to see me, and leave. And it's as productive as it would have been if I stayed 3 hours at a cocktail party 15 years ago.
Just showing face.
Showing face, but strategically talking to who you have to talk to and not getting lost in that side of it, because that's a danger of what we do, because nothing productive generally happens 2 hours into a cocktail party,
I agree.
right? And the other thing too is don't be afraid. You know, we had a confidence that we weren't scared to talk to anybody, and we haven't lost that. And now some of those people that we were just taking a shot in the dark, let's talk to this people. Now some of them are our friends,
Wow.
and then we could shoot a note. Hey, let's have breakfast. It's a really cool thing, and I think people respect that. So be confident, not cocky, but it's hard, and be patient. And I think that's advice I'd give to my younger self. I've become a little more zen in my older age.
And something that we want to end on is, if you weren't an attorney, what would you be doing?
Oh, wow. You know, we've done a lot of education, a lot of teaching. I've taught so many broker classes. So one thing that we have as another business is we actually created our own online real estate school. So continuing education for commercial brokers, residential agents. It's called Real Estate Center for Success. Something we're really proud of. Anybody, because real estate agents, just like lawyers and brokers, need to complete CE every 2 years. So we built an online school and we love it. We bring in friends, we moderate, we teach. I really do enjoy teaching. And I think if I wasn't a lawyer, that could be a good spot for me.
A teacher?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just want the lawyer's pay.
Fair. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us.
for
We
having me.
really
This was
appreciate
great.
it. Awesome.
Appreciate it.